Good morning, good afternoon. This is the Filmmakers Life podcast. And my name is Joanne Butcher. I am a business coach and I specialize in helping filmmakers raise money to make their movies. And today we have my fabulous client, Michelle Malley Campos. In fact, Emily, who is smart, that's really an amazing thing that your last name is smart. But Emily has taken over the podcast, and now for the rest of the year, she tells me it's all my clients that I get to speak to. So it's really fabulous. And Michelle has just is in the middle of a massive achievement with her filmmaking. And but I'm still going to start with my initial question that I'd like to ask, even though I've asked you this before. But when did you first know you were a filmmaker?
I've been getting this question a lot recently.
Really?
Yeah, it's like getting there where, in a lot of different like forums and spaces, this question comes up and it's great to talk about it. But first of all, thank you, Joanne, again for the Filmmaker's Life and for inviting me again. I think this is a fantastic platform to talk about film and share experiences. Um, I wanted to make movies ever since I had kind of like a conscience, maybe like third or fourth
Mm,
grade.
mm.
I knew that I wanted to make movies. And um not knowing exactly what that entails, I wanted like my in my head I had to be actor, director, writer, producer, the whole thing. And so I remember particularly in fifth grade, there was a like the first kind of school project where we all had to kind of present what we wanted to be when we grew up. And it's written there, actor, writer, director, producer, and just to make movies. And looking back on it, it's nice to know that we don't have to do it all and that we can have a great team, and how nice it is to have a great team to get a movie going. And I think that is the true dream, and I've been repeating it a lot recently, finding a really great team to make a film come to life. So that's has been my experience recently.
That's so funny you talk about when you came to consciousness. I was just hearing about a movie that's just coming out on Apple TV, which is called Mr. Scorsese, about Martin Scorsese. And apparently, he, as a child, made drawings that
Yes,
actually were
I did that
cinematic.
too.
Yeah. And so they've animated some of these in the film. But I was just hearing this morning and I was like, oh, that's so interesting that a child would be basically telling stories cinematically,
Well, I drew my characters. Like I would come up
uh-huh.
with characters and would kind of draw them out. Because I was really, well, I'm still am. I'm really into fantasy and nonfiction, and I made up these crazy characters. I would try to draw them out, and also like moving into more like in middle school. I played Dungeons and Dragons and was into magic and all
Oh,
that. So I always like to draw, my character playing D&D, and that's kind of like I think there's definitely a kind of that first exercise to visualize, right, the stories you want to tell, or at least the characters you want to bring to life. So that's very interesting. I want to watch that.
I
See
know, I know.
Scorsese.
It's going to be out in a couple of days, apparently, on Apple TV. But I think I just canceled my subscription. But I know I want to see that
Story of our
movie.
lives. Cancel, go back, cancel, go
I've,
back.
oh yeah, no, I've sort of started a new practice where I only want to have one subscription at a time now, is what I've
That's a
decided.
good
I'm just going to
practice.
have one subscription at a time, and because there's just always too much to watch.
Yeah.
Um, so, did you go to film school? Were you already on the path by the time you went to university?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I even before college, when I was in elementary school, I started through the acting route. I
Oh,
took,
yeah.
courses and classes with big actresses, local actresses and stuff like that. And in middle school, high school, I was part of the drama club, and we did shorts as part of that. And I also did like summer courses in Puerto Rico, and also went to Northwestern's digital, what was it, New Media Arts summer program. And then I did go to film school. I went to NYU. And interestingly, those summer courses that I did in Puerto Rico, it was 2 summers in ninth and 10th grade. Uh, my my mentors, my teachers, who are now my colleagues,
Uh-huh.
they helped us. It was like a group of 5 of us that wanted to apply to NYU, and they helped us with our application. And I think it was 5 of us who went to NYU that year, or like in the few years, because there was several summers that those courses were in, and they were doing those courses. And so it was like a couple of years that a lot of us kind of got into NYU, so that was
Mm.
nice.
I have a client, Erland Hollingsworth, who went to NYU, and he's just finished his second feature film. And he told me, because I met him a year after he had graduated, he started working with me a year after he had graduated. And he told me that NYU's great, and that he felt he was being prepared to go and get a job in Hollywood. And he did not want to get a job in Hollywood. He wanted to make his own movies. And I always have remembered that. I thought that was very interesting, and so he felt that because he didn't want to get a job in Hollywood and he wanted to make his own movies, he actually didn't get the training he needed. What was your experience at NYU?
I mean, I can see that definitely. Looking back, it is a type of kind of curriculum that kind of sets you on that track.
Mm,
Um, in a difference, I've taken kind of labs, like storytelling labs, or development labs, and all these different things since then. And I think maybe what is lacking in the curriculum at NYU, at least, and this was uh a long time ago, but it was lacking in a sense of like developing like a vision. There's not a like a nurturing aspect about like what you want to say as a filmmaker or
so
as a
interesting.
storyteller.
So
And this
interesting.
is, I realized this like, maybe in the last 5 years, kind of looking
Uh-huh.
back, or even like in the process of developing this
Right.
film. And it was a little bit hard for me. I've always been very academic. I just kind of like, concentrate on doing the work and getting good grades. And in when I was in New York, I loved my experience there, but I just couldn't see myself staying there. I couldn't see
Mhm.
myself living in New York and doing the grind in New York, and doing that track of, being an assistant for 5 years, and, working your way up the ladder, and eventually start directing TV and that sort of thing. Like, I couldn't see how I could create my own movies staying there. And also, I'm Puerto Rican, and I don't, I wanted to go back to my island and um, focus on telling Puerto Rican stories from my reality and from my country in a way. So yeah, I can see that it's very, it does have its prestige, and I don't regret it in minimum sense. And also, being in New York, studying in New York, and making film in New York is just a fabulous experience that I highly recommend, because the city itself is so kind of available to tell all these different stories. And it's a fascinating experience. And I definitely wanted to go back to Puerto Rico to have my home base here, and create my career here. And I've always wanted to uh, write in Spanish, and have my films in Spanish. And it's yeah, it's just what you want to do with your career. And if it always made sense to me, like, yeah, I wanted to try to reach Hollywood from my experience over here, instead of like
Right.
staying and doing grind in New York. it's
Right.
an ongoing conversation, with myself, I think, and in the process of
Uh-huh.
now kind of having made my first feature and what's next, and the how I kind of identify myself and how I express myself, and my relationship to film, to my films, and to film in general in the industry. Those are like ongoing conversations, I think, and it's important to have them consistently, or at least
For sure, for
every so
sure,
often.
for
Yeah.
sure. So you did return to Puerto Rico, and I know that you eventually have been in the union. How did that path come about? How did how did your path to become a member of the union happen?
So even like before getting to NYU, I had kind of fallen into like an assistant director
Ah,
mentality, or at least expertise.
yes, I can
Again,
see
very
that. I
organized.
can see that.
Very organized, very leading oriented. Okay, let's do this and this and that. So even like from high school, I had already kind of developed that sensibility.
Yes.
Um, and once I graduated and came back to Puerto Rico, I came back being like, I'm the director from NYU, and I'm this big deal, and everybody hire me, and I'm ready to direct and all that. And everybody's like, who are you and what are you what are you doing here? Who cares that you went to NYU? Even it almost, and it, well, no, definitely was like, I'm the stuck up person that keeps saying that I studied at NYU. So it was just like this kind of adjustment to meeting, getting here and meeting people, because when you study outside and you come back, you don't have necessarily this community, because usually if you leave to study abroad, to study in the States, you stay there, you stay out, and maybe
Uh-huh.
you come back
Uh-huh.
for
Right.
different reasons, but it's
Right.
unusual
Right.
um to study outside and come back. And so basically I had written and sent via mail all these letters to production companies and ad agencies, because the idea is that the track, the path, right? You start in publicity and advertising.
Uh-huh.
And so I got in, I started working at a production company that's in advertising as an intern. And then, I would basically intern with the AD, and then they're like, oh, you're pretty smart. And then they start giving me work. And then basically I excelled to the point of getting into the union. I have to say that I came back to Puerto Rico in a very opportune moment, because
Mm.
there was a lot of big budget, really like high quality films and TV shows being filmed, being done in Puerto Rico. We have a tax rebate or incentive, that at that moment it was maybe, they either had revised it, or it was new, or something had happened recently. And then you had the lights of the Argentine, Steven Soderbergh with Benicio del Toro. You had Men Who Stare at Goats with Ewan McGregor and George Clooney. You had Fast Five and The Losers and all these like big budget films. And and The Rum Diary with Johnny Depp. So like I started working as a production assistant in the office, then got onto set, got the opportunity to start working as a base camp production assistant, where I had worked closely with the actors and hair, makeup, wardrobe, and did all the production reports and all this clerical stuff that I was always very kind of diligent, very good at. And then I worked my
I just
way
wanted to
up.
ask you, I wanted to ask you, uh, you were saying, so the tax incentives and there's tax credits and so on. Um, is Puerto Rico, do you think still, I need to find a better word, but I want to say, is Puerto
Competitive.
Rico, I was going to say aggressive
Oh,
about bringing film business to the island? Because
Um,
all of those films
I
you
wouldn't
listed. Oh,
I
okay.
wouldn't say aggressive at all. I
Okay.
mean,
Okay.
there it's a touchy kind of complicated subject, this whole tax incentives thing,
Right.
because they're they lack the office that runs it lacks kind of film people. They're lawyers
Right.
and government people, some with very good intentions. You and they every time there's an election, they there's a change
Right.
in
Right.
administration, and it's kind of hard to keep kind of a consistency and of kind of
Vision.
um
Vision even.
viewpoint or
Yeah.
perspective, or
Yeah.
and so right now is a very interesting time. We haven't been able to, the cap is very low, so there's a lot of demand for the credits and not enough credits to go around. And there are some kind of policies that had to be adjusted in order to get better access to those credits, which is happening.
Mm.
And the director that the office director, is he's new, so he seems like a good guy with good intentions. um and it's it's an interesting time, definitely, for us, because we need these tax incentives to have some sort of a percentage of the budget covered when you're looking for co-productions, where you're looking for any type of deals outside of Puerto Rico. We do need to export our films in order to make some sort of return on investment. So right now it's a really good time to, at least for us locally,
Great.
to
Great.
access these credits, and also to present them as a viable co-production model for international co-production.
Right.
We're
Fantastic.
working
Fantastic.
towards.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, I'm half Trinidadian, and Trinidad has some incentives, but there are other islands in the Caribbean who are really doing a lot more. So, like the Dominican Republic is doing a lot more. It feels
Oh
to me like
yeah.
Puerto Rico is doing a lot more.
Well,
So,
the only thing with Puerto Rico is that they don't, in terms of what your original question about the aggressiveness, like they don't
yeah,
have presence at anywhere in any market. They
okay.
don't go out to like sell themselves as a film destination like Dominican Republic does, like
Uh-huh.
Chile does, like everyone, Colombia.
Right. Yep.
You
Yep.
see them. I've been traveling a lot to all these markets this year, and it's always very frustrating to see the lack of representation, especially when you have tax credits to sell, when you
Yeah.
have this whole program with Puerto Rico as a filming destination, and you're not going out to markets to let people know. Nobody knows. But the thing
Right.
is that they've traditionally marketed to Hollywood. They're not interested in
Yeah.
going to
Right.
markets. They don't have that vision in that sense.
Yeah.
And basically catered to Hollywood and to US productions.
Right. Right.
And so we look at our level, us local filmmakers, we've been having to kind of get together, get creative, and make our presence felt somehow. And it happened for the first time in the Guadalajara Film Market, which the Puerto Rico Film Festival had a Puerto Rico pavilion. And now in Ventana Sur, we're also kind of making these efforts to have a representation as Puerto Rico film industry, with a catalog of all these different films, and work together to get to those distributors, because we're not it's not happening on our own. And it's
Exactly.
always more attractive to distributors and to sales agents to have a catalog of Puerto Rican films instead of just one or two.
Right, right, right. One at a time. So you got yourself into the union, and by by being talented, which is great. And then I think by the time I met you, you were you were making a short, and I think it was one of many that you had made. Is that right?
Yes, so basically, like, I worked a lot. I was constantly working, and then, whenever I had time, I would make a short. I don't know, I have like 10 shorts. I lost count. I've done a bunch of short films, and I got to start directing advertising ads, and I've done a few documentaries, and I always get antsy because you can work in a show as an assistant director, as a production assistant. But I always like yearn to be creative and, tell stories, our stories, and have healthier dynamics. Sometimes, not every show is a good show, and you get PTSD from like the
Wow.
way shows are run. And it's like, if this is what film is, I don't want anything to do. It's
I had that
horrible. Everybody's having
experience.
a bad time. The script sucks. Like, nobody cares. It's like, it's so kind of opposite of what
Yeah.
film is, something that I care about deeply. So,
I worked
um,
on a TV show that was about addiction. And
mm,
oh boy, was that I could definitely, you know, write a book about that experience. Like watching the whole crew devolve over time as nobody was getting any support as they were dealing with these and near death addicts,
oh
and
wow.
just it was crazy. And I was aside from the interventionist, I was the only sober person on the set. And I just watched people
Wow.
just going
That's
down.
problematic.
Woo! And and
Yeah.
and everybody on the show was like, well, I just came from a bride makeover or, living room makeover or something like that. And they're dealing
Right.
with, people
What are we
shooting
even
up
doing?
25 times a day, and it's like, mm.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I remember that short. What was that short that I think you had gotten funding for that? Was that right? That short you were
No,
making?
we were fundraising. That's when it was perfect. It was right at a moment, we met, and then you basically kind of like gave me the how-to of doing like a successful fundraising campaign. Um, and it was extremely helpful. It was kind of funny because so this short, I submitted it to this call. They do a thing called Cortadito. So the French
Yeah.
Alliance has the European Film Festival here, and they basically do a call for entries for short films, for local short films, that they choose 4 to 6 scripts, and they accompany in the process of making the films to premiere at that festival. And it's a great kind of program, because there's not a lot, or there's not any now, I think, these programs where there's accompaniment and sponsorship, so we have there's a equipment package that is sponsored by the local
Right,
equipment
right,
rental. And
right.
there's, legal package, and then there's like a script doctoring package, and there's a coloring package. So that you do have to present a budget of how you're gonna, pay for the rest of the short. And the idea is that they kind of push you to do fundraising campaigns, and do everything kind of by the book in that sense. And so we did. It's kind of funny because we did a posthumous, it's not posthumous, but like an after the fact fundraising campaign. We had shot the film, and it was basically kind of to get me out of debt. um kind of fundraising, and it was very kind of structured, and it worked. I did the thing, and I think we talked a lot about this. My It's better, but it's still there, like what's it in English, the vergüenza, like
Vergüenza,
asking
yeah,
people for money,
about
like
talking about money. I
it's
like to
like
say talking about money because I think even just
talking
talking
about
about
money,
money.
but asking people for money, it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
and
yeah.
changing the switch to, like, you're not asking for money, you're inviting people to be part of the project.
Yeah.
and made me do the list of 50 people that I was going to call or text to directly ask them for money, or to invite them, to let them know that this campaign was going to go live in a few days or whatever. And it's a structure, it's a system that is very effective if you can get past that kind of fear of asking people for money. And yeah, we reached our goal. I think we surpassed it by a little bit. And yeah, we finished the film, and people loved it. It won at that festival. It won best editing and best actress for our young protagonist. I think she was 9 years old back then. Um, so it was a great experience that kind of wedged itself because I had sent the script and I thought that that I hadn't accepted, and I kind of, moved on, forgot about it. And then I got the email. It's like, oh, by the way, we have a meeting about the scripts that got selected. I'm like, the script got selected. When in the world were you gonna tell me? Like I'm like traveling. I'm like doing all these other things, and it's like, oh my God, I have to do this this short film in the next few months. So it was a little stressful in that sense, because kind of like we had this deadline to have it ready for the festival. Um and yeah, we it was successfully made and won these couple awards. It got into a couple festivals.
Do you
And that
think
was my
that
last short film.
your last short, yeah, do you think that fundraising experience though was helpful for moving on to make your feature?
Oh,
Even though it was,
absolutely.
yes.
Yeah, it was definitely like different because we didn't do a fundraising campaign or anything like that. But during the process of making this film, we did have to find cash flow, uh, what's it called, to lend us money, to lend us money for cash flow that they're definitely getting back. But it's that process of like, hey, because it's like way much more money that we were asking for, and just kind of like going out there and saying, hey, we have this opportunity. It's like a no risk. You'll get your money back and so time. And we managed to do it. And it was like a lot of money to be asking for, and just kind of like, and it came from places that maybe you wouldn't have, well, at least I wouldn't have imagined, like even like my sister, for example. It's like I
Mhm.
just kind of casually said, hey, we're looking for money. She's like, oh wait, I have a bunch of savings that I'm not touching and I'm not going to need in the next 6 months or whatever that you're saying that you're going to give me back. So hey, there you go.
Fantastic,
um
fantastic.
and we just kind of put the pieces together, and it was a whole thing.
So at the same time, when you and I started working together, you were working on a feature project, and it felt like it was very stuck, was what it felt like to, from my side of the
Yes.
ocean. It felt as though it was very
That's
stuck.
why I hired you. Like, what
Exactly.
else? I'm like, what? I have to try something, like, what am I going to do with this project?
And so we worked on that project, but I also remember one day saying, "Would you consider writing a micro budget film?" And you wrote this script that I still talk about because I love it so much. That
Yeah,
horror film that you wrote just in a couple of weeks or something.
yeah, yeah. It's I talk about it a lot because it has a lot to do with, you talk about it too, about moving energy, right?
Right.
And more than just talking about film, it's just in general. If it's something stuck, you got to do something different or try
Right.
something new or the energy in some other way. And I can observe just how everything changed, um once I kind of redirected that energy and like into another project. And also by the fact that I wrote it in 2 weeks, I just feel like I can't do that anymore. Like I don't know how to do that right now. And it's like, wait, I did it before. Like, why
That's
can't I
right.
just go, no, and then it's done, so these kind of challenges, because you challenged me to do, like, okay, well, forget about, to write something new and try and do it with your friends. And we had definitely, with the producer on this film, I had presented her with both projects, and thinking that Extranjera was just gonna be a second project at
Right.
this point. And
Right.
okay, let's do Valle Escondido, let's do a Hidden Valley, it's a one location. We'll do it amongst our friends, and we'll just get all of our frustrations out in this horror thriller that, we kill everybody. And it's like super bloody, and it's just like, screw everyone. So it's like, if you're frustrated, it's just like, well, that's like my advice. If you're frustrated, write a horror movie.
Write a horror film. That's
Like,
right. That's right.
like, pretend that all these people that are in your way, or that don't answer your emails or say, yes, I'm interested in this, just like start ghosting you. It's like, just put them in a film and kill them. Um, but it's interesting because, like, and not only that, I wrote this in 2 weeks, and we were starting kind of like practicing the pitch. And then these funds appear, right? These government funds that they announced that they were going to be available for local filmmakers. And I remember calling Joanne, complaining that they I don't they never answer the phone, and they're probably going to give it to the same people that they always give it, and we're just going to get stuck here. And I can't even remember what you told me, Joanne, but it was another one of the many slaps in the face, like, stop complaining and do something about it, kind of situation. And I literally, like, okay, wait a minute. Don't I have an email? And I looked up, and I had the email, and I sent them the email, and they responded quickly, and I sent them the application, and the rest is history. So, like, it's kind of like
I
a
just
two.
want to, no, I just want to say that I've often seen this with filmmakers, particularly when there's something to do with funding and it's local. So I have a client in Philadelphia who's always, as soon as you press the button of tax credits in Philadelphia, she'll just go into the thing of the rabbit hole, of, well,
Too
they're not
hard
going to give
for me,
you,
but yeah.
and it's just that it's such an easy place to go,
Yeah.
it's such an easy place to go. They're the ones who get the money. We don't get the money, and so we could be stuck there for our whole lives.
Yeah. Yeah. And I believe that, because I have a female director chat, where we kind of give each other information and everything. And I remember, like, that was kind of like the sentiment. Everybody was just kind of complaining about it, and I literally just said, right, just go for it. Don't wait. And a lot of, not only in that chat, but a lot of my colleagues just didn't get a chance even to submit, because, they were too late. They got to it too late. It was a long line
Well,
of
I
people
think you
waiting
only had 30
to submit.
days,
And
right? Wasn't it a 30-day
that was
window?
afterward, though. Yeah,
Oh,
but
okay.
that was because the first step was, like, getting that list of things that I had to get in 30 days. Because
Mhm.
initially, and they'd never explained it well, you had to kind of like, well, what's the first step? And you just had to send an email with the title of the film, the budget, and, like, I don't know, this, like, three stupid things. And then they did a quick meeting of just kind of explaining what the dynamic was going to be. And then they sent you that ginormous list of stuff that you had to get, like documents, and double, because it's like personal and for the company. And you had 30 days to get it all. And most of these things, you have to go to an office or an agency. You have to go through this process. It's just like, pulling teeth. um and
When you say
like, it,
personal and business, do you remember
well, it's
some of the
like all your
documents?
it's the documents, like, you don't the agents, it's all these different agencies, like, to make sure you don't have debts with anybody. You
Right.
don't owe pension, or sorry, not pension, child support. You don't
Uh-huh.
owe a cream, which is like taxes on property. You don't owe anything to our local IRS, all these different like negative certificates that you have a good standing, you don't have any cases against you,
It's
like
basically a credit check. It's a due diligence,
yeah,
credit and
it's a due
compliance.
diligence, right? Yeah,
And it's
but
so funny because right
yeah.
now I'm working with a finance guy and who wants all these things, and filmmakers are like, well, why do I have to give you that? It's very interesting. It's very
Because they're
interesting.
giving you money.
Yep, yep, yep. Credit and
uh
compliance check.
Right. So it's tedious, and then if you stay like in that tedious of like, oh, I have to do all this, and but it's like it's literally what you have to do if you want to make the film, if you want to have the project accepted, and this is the requirements, and this is what's up, then you just do the thing. And I definitely I personally, and I still kind of maybe do it, but I've been a lot better at just kind of checking myself when I get into this negative space of just complaining instead of acting, instead of doing. Um, and I see that when I see it in my friends or colleagues, I'm like, but hey, just ask the question, do the thing. Like, what is missing? Well, what can we do? Like, what is the actionable item instead of like complaining about how bad we have it.
Right.
And that has been like a big kind of life lesson, and it has all to do with that's this coaching that Joanne does about just getting into a mindset of doing.
Thank you so
Because
much. Thank you.
we can play the victim all we want, and we just won't make our films ever. And sure, it's unfair. There's a lot of injustice. There's a lot of unfairness. There's a lot of things that it's like, why can it be easy when it can be hard? It's like, why do all of these processes have to be so hard and convoluted, and we don't have the ideal film people involved in this film office, but it's like, okay, what do we have and how can we work with it, and how we what what we got to get creative, and we got to just do and get
Once
together, and it's very important to get together.
once you submitted the film, there was also supposed to be a very quick turnaround for when you found out if you had been funded or not, and that did not happen, right?
Right, yeah, that
There,
was that was very stressful.
that was very that was
I
torture. Do
I
you
think I have
remember?
PTSD. I don't know. Like I try to like I think I've like blocked some of the experiences from my
I
head
know that
because it
because
was
it
very
all
stressful.
happened so fast. Everything was
Yeah,
really fast.
yeah,
And but you were supposed to hear in, I don't know if it was 30 days or something, but it was anyway a very ridiculously short amount of time. And then
yeah.
the time went on and on and on and
And
on.
then we didn't hear it, and we didn't
It,
hear for them for like 6 months.
6 months, something like that.
Or three. Maybe I'm exaggerating. It felt like 6 months, but maybe it was three. I can't remember. But
But
it's like
but
radio silence. Of
but that was also a great opportunity to fall into the negativity because it's
course.
miserable, waiting and waiting and waiting. So
Yeah,
what
and you
was
can't move forward and kind of
right?
prepare and do the things that we love, which is prep, you know. Well, we couldn't do anything. We couldn't pay anybody. We hadn't, received any funding, and we couldn't move forward into like preparing
So
ourselves.
when you did finally hear you were funded, how did that come? Was it an email? Was it a phone call? What happened? And how did you respond?
Oh my God. I mean, it was funny because uh we were in that space where we're just kind of like writing to them maybe like every other day. When are you going to announce this? When are we going to know like what's the date? And we just didn't get information from them. Maybe they would answer and it's like, we'll let you know. It's like, and so it was kind of like, how did it go? I think we were first invited to a press conference before we actually got the "you're selected" email. Well, and the selected email is like literally like you've been selected, and that's it. And then it's like come to the press conference, so we can
I remember that.
do the pageantry and all this. And I'm just like, oh my God, we're is this actually happening? And so it's interesting because like, since there's a lot of, or there's gaps in information and the communication is not ideal. And then, at least for me, like, I take it everything with a grain of salt. It's like, okay, we're selected. Next step. Let's see. Like, it's like I can't allow myself to, like,
Celebrate.
be happy or celebrate, because I feel like this is gonna be taken away from me at any moment.
Wow.
Um, it's like, or
Wow.
it was false, or there was a mistake. Like, I had a colleague that they sent him the accepted email and then said, "Oh, no, 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 you're not accepted." And that is
Oh,
like even
wow.
worse.
And
So
what was the award that you got that first time?
so this was to just do the whole thing. These were federal pandemic relief funds. This is the Biden pandemic incentives. I can't remember what exactly the law, that the federal law that was passed. And basically there was this pandemic relief funds that were available. And then the local government, the governor at the time, assigned 74 million of these pandemic relief funds to the two-person office of the office, the film office. We call it an office because it's within the Department of Economic Development and Commerce. And so it's this office within this agency. And so basically, they got assigned these funds. They did these
What I
guidelines.
actually meant was, how much did you get?
Oh, so initially, um, it was 1.2, was it?
1.2 million. Yep.
I can't remember because they didn't give the entirety. So
Right.
for our part, because there was a reimbursement and disbursements, is 75% and 95% for certain budgets. The budget had to be minimum 1 million and maximum 1.8 million. And they gave 95% of that budget. So I can't remember if we submitted a budget of 1.2 and they gave us 95% of that, or if it was a total of 1.2. And so basically it was divided into stages and disbursement stages. So there was initial seed money of a certain amount. It was the least amount for development to then get everything started. We had to submit a report of how we spent that money. And then once they approved that report, they did the second disbursement, which was for prep, and did the thing, report, blah, blah, blah. And then third disbursement for production, and then fourth disbursement for post-production and
And so, having now made your film, Michelle, what would you say to the level of complexity of making an over $1 million movie for your first feature film, plus having to deal with the fact that it was federal dollars from the US government?
the worst part is just the federal dollars aspect, because it's the
Yeah,
most audited,
yeah,
type of money in existence.
yeah.
And also the structure of those disbursements were contradictory to filmmaking processes. There's
Mm,
no gap between prep and production. And that's why earlier I mentioned that we had to find cash flow
uh-huh.
lenders, because the pace of production and the pace of making the film is going to be way too fast for the government processes that are painfully slow everywhere, right?
Right,
So it was an added layer of complexity. That filmmaking is complex already, and it's the
right.
most difficult thing to do. It's insane. There was this added level of complexity of like maneuvering all these maneuvering this structure that they were kind of, there was a set structure, but there were a lot of things that we're all making up as we went along, including
Right.
the government, or the film office. It's like, okay, well, these are the guidelines, and they're like, this is impossible to comply with. Please listen to us. It's impossible. You want us to make our films. it can't be. And so there was a little bit of kind of give and take. There were some things that, you know, there was unmovable.
Were, were, uh, were you able to have fun making the film when you finally got on set? Were you able to enjoy it with all of that?
Yes, I mean, I'm I'm a very intense person, as you know. I need a lot of concentration.
Mm.
And I take everything very seriously, and I need to have this, it's not a tunnel vision, but it's just like very kind of linear attention to like to the way we're creating this film, right? I did have fun, definitely. I think I had more fun in prep, where I had my office and
Uh-huh.
I, you know, put all my shots on the walls, and I had all these meetings, you know. And to me, it's like it's very important to have as many meetings and conversations as possible with every single department, every single person in the department. I always made myself available for everyone who had any questions, and obviously to sit down and go through and this is what we need, and just kind of like really flesh it out. So it was definitely a lot of work, and the biggest kind of obstacle is this, you know, Puerto Rico, Taiwan, because we did shoot locations that were
Another
supposed to
layer of
be in Puerto
complexity.
Rico.
Another
Yeah,
layer of complexity that
yeah. And so we had to match. Yeah,
a third or
we
a
had to match. We not only match, we have to like be sensitive and authentic with what we're representing. That's also something that was very important to me, to not just do whatever, and just make sure that the, you know, the lighting fixtures, the color, the everything that were presenting made sense and is credible. That we're actually in Taiwan. So, and I say we because I can't, you know, I definitely didn't do this alone. I had an amazing thing. Camila, the producer, Raul, co-producer, Mariela, associate producer, who was in charge of the Taiwan unit, Andy, our other, associate producer, who brought us a big actress from Mexico, and he's like ex Amazon, ex Televisa, had a lot of expertise on, you know, packaging the film. And obviously our Taiwan producer, who we were having conversation with him, I think, for like a year prior to the shoot over there. So what it's a lot, it's like stressful in the way that there's just so much to do and just kind of like execute. But we had such a great team for this execution, and we were all on the same playing field. As like, this is, we're up here in terms of like the level, the quality, the kind of the expectation of what we're trying to do, and we want everybody to meet us on this level. And yes, there's like growing pains and, you know, different dynamics where we kind of have to have uncomfortable conversations, so we clarify what, like, how we can communicate effectively, um and just, you know, get everybody on the same page of
I
this
just
very
realized
complex.
we're getting close to the end of our time. Mike has a question, and then I realized that we're also supposed to play a little bit of video so everyone can see what this movie is that we're talking
Yes.
about. So Mike, go ahead and ask your question.
First of all, thanks for being transparent and explaining the process, because you know, I've been on a lot of meetings and places to where you know, they give you crumbs of little things because they don't want to share what really the grueling, brutal process that filmmaking really is. You know, so I appreciate your, you know, thanks for your candor. But question: what did all this happen in Puerto Rico or over here in the States? Because I mean, you know, I've got 3 feature films I've produced. Right now, I'm just wrapping up post-production, put out the trailer for a film short that was sponsored by the state of Delaware, where me and my family are at. And we went through the grant process through the state, but we ended up only getting like $900. I mean, you know, it's laughable. You know, that's barely crafties right there. I mean, but you know, hey, okay, I'll take what I can get. But the process was like grueling, even for that little quantum realm size budget. So is what you're doing.
I'm just gonna shorten it just because I really want to play this video, Mike, and let's you and I have a conversation because the whole thing about fundraising is my specialization. But go ahead, Michelle. But let's
Yeah,
get to the video.
everything did happen in Puerto Rico. Yes, this was all like local. Even though it was federal funding, you know, as a territory and a colony of the United States, you know, there is this access to federal funds that get locally distributed. And it was assigned, those funds were assigned by the local government to the film office. And I've also, you know, asked for sponsorships for very little amount of money it's basically the same grueling process, you know, in terms of to apply and get them to answer and okay, yeah, we're good. Okay, we're waiting for a few months for the contract. And then finally, you know, it's just, you know, $1,500. But yeah, I think government, there's a lot of red tape and oversight and, you know, processes in government. I think it's just the hand that we get dealt, you know, and when we have to deal with governments. I think that's generalized. I guess they do the best.
Thanks so much for being here, Mike. And I'm going to have Emily play the video. This is actually not a trailer for Extranjera. This is a behind the scenes montage. So this will be fun. Fantastic. I can't wait for everyone to see the film because when it goes into distribution, we'll let everyone know. But particularly those Taiwan shots, those are some complex setups you had there, like in the night market and the restaurant overlooking and yeah, some very complex setups you had even in Taiwan.
Yeah, that's why we had to talk about it for like a year. I mean, you know, we filmed in 3 different cities,
Wow.
on trains, in that view, that place. It's like this tiny town up on the mountains, and it's actually the inspiration for Hayao Miyazaki's Spirited Away, that little town. When I had visited for the first time Taiwan in 2013, I think it was, my main thing that I wanted to see in Taiwan is that town, because I'm a huge Miyazaki fan. And I when when we're talking about it, and I was like, that it has to be that town. I know it's complicated. There's a lot of stairs, and it's gonna be a pain in the ass, but it has to be there. It has to be at the tea house. And we did it. And the cool thing about again, finding the right team, because I traveled to Taiwan in 2023 looking for our local Taiwan producer, and I had met several people there, and then through contacts met with certain other people, and nobody seemed to like really click. And we got to this to this company, and the guy, he's actually Canadian. He's been living in Taiwan for like, I don't know, 20 something plus years. And he's a filmmaker. He's a crazy filmmaker like us that says like, "Oh, what do you need? A train? Sure, we'll just add an extra add an extra carriage." Well, that's easy. Don't worry about it. What else? Oh, you need to film in 3 different cities? Sure, no problem. We can do that. And he was like a very hands-on person. He also shoots, and he writes and directs, and as a videographer, he's a filmmaker, and I think that filmmakers who are really good producers, that are like action people, they speak our same language and are gonna like be, yeah, that's totally feasible. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be, we had an 8-day shoot in Taiwan. We had a week of prep and then an 8-day shoot. And it was intense. It was intense. And everybody had to be on board with that, because people were like, "Oh, I'm not doing that. That's too much." Then everything kind of falls apart. So it's the team that you surround yourself with, and the players that can see the vision and go for it, and are like very, in to make the best movie possible. Then that's how we can make this happen.
So you just had your premiere at the Ourense Film Festival, and how was that
Oh,
experience?
loved it. It was perfect. It's like a small festival in a way.
Oh
Not
yeah.
a lot of people know about it, but it's 30th year.
Yeah.
And it's a very big festival in how it's organized and how it like carries itself. Everything was so well organized, and the way they have this respect for film, for filmmaking, for the artistry, the craft. And they put the posters of the films all over town, and you walk around, and then suddenly the poster of Extranjera is right there. It's like, oh my God. And then, they were so nice to us, and they were very kind of attentive, and they wanted to involve us as much as possible in the festival. They invited us to a press conference. They made a point of speaking to us. The programmers just loved our film. People, the watchers who watched the film also came up to us. So we felt very loved. We were practically rock stars. A little bit.
Wow.
It was a great experience. It's like kind of, the intimate kind of experience that gives you a small festival versus a huge festival. Like now, next month we go to Mar del Plata, which is a huge festival,
You-
and I'm 100% convinced that it's not going to be the same experience.
uh-huh.
Kind of, it's an attentiveness, and it's just, and the town is beautiful. The people were so beautiful. Everything was just so perfect, and
Wow.
a lot of us could go, and we had a big kind of representation of the film there. So it was magical. It was great. I have no complaints, and I'm so glad that we chose it, because we had that moment where we had to kind of decide, oh my God, because we had the first half of the year, we submitted to the big festivals, submitted to like the ones that you're told that you had to submit. We hadn't been getting accepted anywhere, and suddenly this kind of small festival that at least I had never heard of was going to be our world premiere. We're like, is that good for the film? Is it, does it make sense for the route? Like, we want to premiere at a big one. should we wait? And it's like, no, we have to, you know, the film has its course. You have to let the baby go. And it's like, it is what it is. It's if this is where we premiere, then that's where we premiere. And it was perfect. And now we got the big one next month. So
Yeah, yeah. And Mar del Plata is where?
it's in Argentina. It's the
Argentina.
only Latin American film festival with a Class A rating. So that's in Argentina. And then right after we go to Ícaro in Guatemala, which is a festival that I love and I've been submitting all my shorts to all my life. And it's like, yes, we get it, we got it, we're there, we did it. So that's what's next, at least for this year. We're waiting to hear back from a few festivals for December. But usually by this time, it's like they haven't said anything, they probably haven't accepted. But then we've got submissions all the way through April. And then we're looking at premiering in doing our theatrical premiere here in Puerto Rico and doing our theatrical run here in Puerto Rico sometime next year, like mid next year. That's
Fabulous. And then distribution. So you'll go into distribution sometime in 2026, I guess.
Right. Yeah, we've been having a lot of conversation with distributors, and that has been interesting, and to put it also in a positive sense. Our film is, okay, let me choose the words. It's difficult to market, I think. It's trilingual, Puerto Rico, Taiwan. Everybody loves it. They watch it and they say it's a beautiful film, but they're like, they don't know what to do with it. Their kind of structures, at least for sales agents and distributors, they're like, I have this slate and there's this weird film that's really nice. I loved it, but I like, how do I even, they don't know what to do with it, basically. But now that it's starting to have its festival run, that has been very, very kind of eye-opening and informative of who we should market this film to. And even, you know, with just the one presentation, we had 3 in Ourense, but we had our first review by a Cuban journalist who lives in Ourense, based in Ourense. And it was such a beautiful review. I feel like it was an award.
I want to see that, Michelle.
I have to send it to you. Yes, please. Yes. I think you hit Google Translate. It's in Spanish, but you can hit Google Translate.
Oh, yeah. I speak Spanish. Duh.
No, okay. But yeah, but it's like, oh, well, okay. First of all, it's getting understood. The film is getting understood, like on the deeper levels, which is exciting.
Yes.
And we're confirming who our audience is. And you know, we just have to kind of find that partner that understands our audience, the audience that we're speaking to. And it's more niche, and it's, you know, it's not like very broad. It's niche. It's, you know, it's specific. It's not, you know, but
tell everybody what the log line is, because we actually didn't do that.
Oh, we didn't, right? Extranjera tells the story of Epa, who's an artist and a teacher. And she's the daughter of a politician who suddenly gets investigated for corruption. And so she's under this public opinion that associates her with this corruption, and she finds it kind of unsustainable to stay in Puerto Rico. So she flees to Taiwan, searching for answers from her mother, whom she has no relationship with. But instead she gets distracted with new friendships, adventures between cities, and unexpected passions. But reality kind of checks her, and she has to make her way to the uncomfortable encounter with her mother, who doesn't offer any support and berates her for skirting responsibility, and she demands that she take a stand. So Epa, our protagonist, has to decide whether to keep fleeing or to take responsibility for her story.
Yes, and her father, I just had a meeting yesterday with Alex Lugo, who apparently auditioned for the film, and his father plays the father. I think the father and the mother are just Absolutely fantastic. Well, the lead is too, but those two characters are so fantastic. The father, mother, fantastic.
Thank you,
And the
thank you.
actors are superb, right? So
Yeah,
he's
very
well
proud.
known in which country is he? I
Eh,
mean,
eh,
he's known all
He's
over.
like a little bit Latin America. He comes from, both of them have a big track record in novelas, you know, Mexican novelas or, you know, Colombian, that sort of thing. Mainly Mexican novelas, I think, or like local.
And his
They're
name
known
is
in like Latin America and the Hispanic population, probably like, you know, in
yeah,
Florida and things like that that follow
and his name is
Spanish speaking novenas. He's
Daniel
Daniel,
Lugo.
yeah.
Lugo, and then her name is
Patricia Reyes Píndola.
Patricia
She
Reyes.
was in Fear the Walking Dead.
Ah,
She played a character in there that's more mainstream, more US.
right,
But she
right.
actually just won the equivalent of Lifetime Achievement Oscar. In Mexico, they have their Ariel, which is
Uh-huh.
like the Oscar, and she just got the Lifetime Achievement. It's like her fifth Ariel, and and it's the Lifetime Achievement Award. So I'm very proud of her, and we're very happy that she liked the film and accepted to be part of it.
And have you had any moments to think about what your next film will be?
Oh, absolutely. That's all I think about.
Oh,
Well,
yeah?
I've been rewriting Valle Escondido. I've been pitching it a lot. I pitched it in Guadalajara, and recently, when we premiered in Ourense, there was Iberseries also in Madrid. It's another market, and I pitched it in that market as well. That one was a Spanish company, and the other one was a Mexican company. So whoever writes back first gets it. And the good thing is that they do development. So they pay for, you know, I want to be paid to write. That's like the main
Fantastic.
thing. Because all I want to do is write. I keep coming up with ideas, and it's this stressing. I just want to sit down and write. I want to be paid. So
Yes.
so that has been those were really good meetings, that they were exactly what they're looking for. This horror thriller, there's like inheritance aspect to it. It's one location. It can be shot anywhere. There's an indigenous aspect as well. It can be indigenous according to where it's shot. I let go of that a little bit ago.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted
Uh-huh.
to insist that it be shot in Puerto Rico, and I'm like, you know what? I just want it to be shot.
Okay. Okay.
I'll be able to choose maybe later on, but like
Uh-huh.
the second one, I think this making the second film is harder than making the first. I keep reading that. And in terms of getting the funding, getting it made, it's like getting to that second feature. So I have been channeling a lot of my energy into that one, but I have 3 more scripts, and then I've lost count of the ideas that keep popping up, and I just have a slate that I present to people and explain the different stages that they're in, and it's all types of genres. So it's like, take your pick, let's go, I'm ready.
Fantastic. And I love that script. I really love
Yes.
that script. Always did. And
Yeah.
I'm sure you've heard me say this, but my business is called Filmmaker Success, but one day I'm going to change it to second film.
Yeah.
Second
Yes.
film.
Yes.
That's the one, but it sounds fantastic. Michelle, it's always such a pleasure to
Thank
hang
you.
out with you
Likewise. Thanks
and
everyone
get the
for
update
listening to me.
and hear how it went. And yeah, I look forward to letting everybody know you can see the film.
Yes. Very soon, hopefully.
Yes, yes, yes. So enjoy the festivals, enjoy the
Thank you.
pitching. Let me
Thank
know
you. Thank you.
when that film gets on its way.
Thank you for having me again, and thank you all for joining and asking questions. And I love connecting with other filmmakers, and I think together we can do anything. It's been very, very rewarding to create something in a collective kind of environment and sensibility. So I invite everyone to find your teams, find your partners, your your ideal filmmaking
Right,
peeps that
right.
will elevate. Well, that all they do is, elevate and fight for that vision that you have. And it's so rewarding when we'll finally make the film and it's like all that hard work paid off, and so that's where we're at. So
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Michelle. Thanks everybody for coming. Thank you, Emily. Good to see you all.